Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for being here at the 2016 Focus on Inclusion Conference.
I appreciate the invitation, as always.
We like to have you here sharing with educators in Indiana. But one of the topics that you're going to be presenting on with us is school-based mental health services. And that is one of those topics that has risen to the top. More and more schools are finding themselves in a situation of dealing with very complex mental health needs in their students. Mm-hmm. And as the districts try to define their role in this, where do they begin?
Well, a very interesting question. I think it's something that we've been working on for many, many years, and I think oftentimes schools have never felt like that it has been their responsibility. There's always some other agency, or it's the family's responsibility. But I think built into what we already do as educators is really part of what we need to emphasize. So let me just highlight a few things. First of all, it doesn't matter the size of the district, whether it's rural or it's urban, it doesn't matter at all. I think the most important thing is that we need to remember that schools can be frightening places for some kids. And that what we have to do is be sure that our culture and our rule-governed expectations are taught and learned, and kids have the opportunity to understand what our expectations are. But part of that, and I think most significantly, is the whole idea of building relationships. You know, we talk about it all the time. Everybody says the key word is relationship with kids. But this is a serious business, and that requires really a very directive response on all of our staff's part to make those relationships happen. We need to be sure that when kids come to school that they know that what we have here, it's safe and secure. It doesn't matter what happened at home, doesn't matter what their issues are. When they come to school, we can provide that security and that safety and that relationship component that's going to be essential to what they might need. The second part about it, I think that when you talk about mental health issues, we need to identify kids at an earlier age. We need to do universal screening. We need to quantify this. Kids who engage in internalizing behaviors, depression, anxiety, social withdrawal, often are well known to our classroom teachers. But what happened in problem-solving teams is oftentimes is the kids that are the most disruptive, which those kids may have mental health issues as well, are the ones that get the services. And kids that sit in the back of the class, and what I characterize as kids that make themselves a victim of their own behaviors, oftentimes are overlooked. So it's quantifying and recognizing who those people and those kids are, and then developing some kind of connection with the staff in order to address that issue.
Along with that, what are some of the roles that the school should take on? You know, how do we get there? We develop relationships. How do we build the capacity, I guess, to take care of some of these other needs that arise that are beyond, you know, the relationship piece or the academic piece?
Okay. Yeah, well, I think first of all that we need to connect. We've been in love with etiology for an awful long time, and we fall into this sort of rut, I believe, that we have to categorize, or that some other person has a greater skill than we do in terms of understanding kids' mental health issues. There's a term called epigenetics that basically is a balance between nature and nurture, and that there's a biological basis for all things that we do. The question really is, what has life taught these children, and what can we do to help undo that? So we need to make connections with clinical people who have knowledge and experience in these different types of needs of kids. Secondly, we need to make sure that we empower our own staff with the ability and the skills to be able to address those things. And the third thing, and I think this is interesting, we're in a perfect place because any and all learning make kids feel better, make adults feel better. And I think that if we can nurture that sort of climate, even in this era of accountability, I think that it will make kids feel comfortable and as a result of that, feel better about themselves. Clearly, there are certain children that present themselves in pretty significant ways, and we need to make sure that our problem-solving teams talk about those kids. As an example, in universal screening, what I'm finding in my work is that while the kids are often identified, the fact that they're not being served has a lot to do with the fact that we haven't really quantified what their needs might be. We've labeled children, we put them in categories, but we've not really said, well, what are their needs? How do they present themselves? And what can we do differently? And I think in many cases, we already have the existing infrastructure and able to do that. So it's an awareness thing, there's no doubt, and we need to certainly connect with others, but I think the school is the place where we can provide some sustained and predictable patterns and routines that make kids feel welcome and safe.
Well, thanks for sharing that bit with us, and
Sure.
we'll look forward to hearing more from you.
Great. Well, thanks. So again, I appreciate the invitation. It's always good to be back. All right. Thank you.